Imagine a storm fierce, unrelenting, tearing through a forest. It doesn't begin with thunder or lightning but with a whisper, soft and almost unnoticeable, carrying warnings of what's to come. These whispers aren't just about the weather, they're the voices of discontent, inequality, and neglect, warning of a far greater storm that will consume all who ignore it. Tonight, I bring you to fables from the Emerald Forest, where creatures much like us grapple with power, privilege, and the devastating consequences of division. In the first tale, the mighty squirrels atop their ancient oak dismiss the growing cries of the ground dwellers below, unaware they are perched on the edge of collapse. In the second, we see through the eyes of the squirrels themselves as arrogance blinds them to the storm brewing in their midst. These aren't just stories of a forest, they are reflections of our own society. They hold a mirror to the cracks in our world, urging us to ask hard questions. What happens when the privileged refuse to listen? What chaos unfolds when inequality festers unchecked? Listen closely to these tales. They are more than entertainment, they are a warning. And perhaps, if we heed their lessons, they will help us write a different ending for our own world. The Emerald Forest, once a vibrant tapestry of life, was now a tapestry of discord. The wealthy squirrels who inhabited the ancient oak tree demanded an ever-increasing share of the forest's resources. The ground dwellers, the diligent rabbits, the industrious bees, the playful chipmunks felt the weight of these demands crushing their spirits. Squeaker, with her sharp eyes and keen ears, noticed the growing discontent. The whispers are growing louder, she warned Cookie, talk of unfairness, of revolution. The air is thick with anger. Cookie, remembering the Great Oak Uprising, a time when the ground dwellers, driven to desperation, had risen against their oppressors, shuddered. History, she cautioned, has a cruel habit of repeating itself. When the voices of the oppressed are ignored, when inequality festers, the consequences can be devastating. I, initially dismissive of the ground dwellers' concerns, soon witnessed the chilling signs of impending unrest. The rabbits, once known for their gentle nature, began to sharpen their claws. The bees, their industrious hum replaced by a menacing drone, started to hoard their honey, denying even the sick and the elderly their sweet sustenance. The playful chipmunks, their laughter replaced by a sullen silence, began to hoard acorns, preparing for a winter of scarcity and fear. The wealthy squirrels, blinded by their own privilege, dismissed these warnings as the ramblings of disgruntled underlings. The forest has always belonged to us, they declare. We are the rightful rulers. They scoffed at the idea of revolution, convinced of their own inherent superiority. The uprising, when it finally erupted, was swift and brutal. The ground dwellers, fueled by years of resentment and driven by desperation, rose up with a ferocity that shocked even themselves. The oak tree, once a symbol of power and privilege, was toppled in a whirlwind of fury, its branches crashing down upon the unsuspecting squirrels. The ensuing chaos was unimaginable. The forest, once a haven of peace, descended into a maelstrom of violence. The ground dwellers, their initial triumph quickly turning to infighting, began to tear each other apart, vying for power and resources. The once fertile soil was poisoned by the blood of their fallen brethren. The air, once filled with the songs of birds, was now choked with the cries of the wounded and the dying. Cookie, witnessing the devastation, wept. This was not the revolution they envisioned, she mourned. Blind rage, fueled by years of oppression, has consumed them all. Kai, his fur matted with blood, looked around at the shattered forest and realized the terrible truth. History, he whispered, is not just a collection of stories. It is a mirror, reflecting our actions, our choices, and the inevitable consequences of our inaction. This fable highlights the devastating consequences of ignoring the warnings of history. It illustrates how unchecked oppression creates a vicious cycle of resentment, anger, and violent revolution. It shows how the abuse of power leads to downfall, leaving destruction and suffering in its wake. Finally, it demonstrates how blind rage and a thirst for revenge can consume even noble causes, leading to unintended tragedy. By addressing inequality, fostering justice and mutual respect, and learning from the mistakes of the past, we can break free from this cycle and create a future of peace, harmony, and understanding. Life in the Emerald Forest, for the squirrels who resided in the ancient oak tree, had always been a matter of privilege. They enjoyed the finest nuts, the warmest sunlight, and the most breathtaking views. The ground dwellers, with their endless toil and petty squabbles, were a distant concern, barely registering on their radar. Then came the whispers, insidious and unsettling. Whispers of discontent, of unfairness, of revolution. Lord Hazelnut, the eldest and most respected squirrel, scoffed at these notions. Revolution, he snorted, such preposterous ideas. The ground dwellers are like ants, scurrying about, incapable of independent thought. They are utterly dependent on the order we provide. Lady Acorn, his elegant wife, chimed in, we are the stewards of this forest, the most intelligent and refined creatures within its borders. Our very existence ensures the balance of this ecosystem. These disturbances are merely the ramblings of disgruntled underlings. The squirrels continued to indulge in their luxurious lives, oblivious to the growing unrest among the ground dwellers. They feasted on the finest acorns, sunbathed on the warmest branches, and gossiped about the latest social events, completely unaware of the storm brewing beneath them. Then, disaster struck. The ground dwellers, fueled by a rage they themselves barely understood, rose up. The once majestic oak tree, their home for generations, was toppled in a whirlwind of fury, its branches crashing down upon them. Lord Hazelnut, thrown from his perch, landed with a sickening thud. Lady Acorn, her elegant fur matted with dirt and debris, watched in horror as the once peaceful forest descended into chaos. The ground dwellers, their eyes wild with a fury they had never before witnessed, turned on each other, vying for power and control. The squirrels, once the epitome of grace and refinement, were now refugees, fleeing for their lives. They witnessed the destruction of their homes, the desecration of their sacred groves, and the horrifying transformation of their once peaceful paradise into a battleground. Lord Hazelnut, his voice trembling with fear and disbelief, whispered, we did not see this coming. We were so confident in our own superiority. Lady Acorn, her eyes filled with tears, could only nod in agreement. They had been blinded by their privilege, deaf to the warnings, and ultimately, consumed by the very chaos they had inadvertently created. This fable highlights the dangers of arrogance, complacency, and the failure to recognize the legitimate grievances of others. It underscores the importance of empathy, understanding, and the recognition of interdependence within any ecosystem, whether it be a forest or a society. By ignoring the concerns of the ground dwellers, the squirrels not only lost their own privilege, but also contributed to the destruction of the very ecosystem that sustained them. This serves as a stark reminder that even the most powerful can be brought low by their own arrogance and failure to acknowledge the realities of the world around them. The fables of the Emerald Forest are not just tales of animals, they are reflections of us, of the choices we make, and the consequences we face. In both stories, we see the dangers of ignoring discontent, the arrogance of power, and the tragic cycle that unfolds when privilege blinds us to the needs of others. But these tales also serve as a reminder: the storm is not inevitable. Change can come through understanding, through empathy, and through action before it's too late. The whispers of inequality and unrest are warnings, not just of destruction, but of an opportunity to create something better. Let us not be like the creatures of the Emerald Forest, caught in a cycle of arrogance and rage. Instead, let us break free by listening to one another, addressing injustice, and building a future rooted in fairness and compassion. The choice is ours, ending is yet unwritten. So, as we leave these fables behind, take their lessons forward. Let them guide us to recognize the whispers of change, to act before the storm, and to ensure that our story is one of hope, not despair. The winds of change are always blowing. It is up to us to decide where they will take us.